Alexander Hamilton, Part 1, The Rise. Bastard, not behind his back, to his face. In the 1700s, that word was a death sentence. It meant you had no father, no family, no future, no place in society. And on a tiny, forgotten island in the Caribbean, a boy was born with that curse written all over him. His name was Alexander Hamilton, and he was supposed to disappear. This is the story of how a boy with nothing, not even a name, used a pen to carve his name into history. How the storms that destroyed his childhood forged the man who would build a nation. This is the rise of Alexander Hamilton. Picture this, the year is 1765. Nevis, a small island so small, most maps forgot to draw it. Heat so thick, it felt like breathing fire. Poverty so deep, it swallowed entire families whole. And into this world comes Alexander, the son of a Scottish trader and a French woman who had already been married to someone else. Illegal, shameful, unwanted. His father left when Alexander was just a child, vanished, didn't look back, didn't send money, didn't send letters. Then his mother died. She was only 38. Fever took her. Alexander was 11 years old. 11. And just like that, he was alone. No mother, no father, no home. The world he lived in had one rule. If you were born poor and illegitimate, you stayed poor. You worked in a shop. You died in obscurity. That was it. That was the script. But Alexander Hamilton didn't read scripts. He wrote them. He took a job, a clerk, stuck behind a desk, counting barrels, tracking shipments, writing invoices for a trading company. Boring work. Work that would crush most men. But Alexander, he watched, he learned, he observed how ships moved, how money flowed, how empires were built on ledgers and ink. And at night, he read. Anything he could get his hands on. Philosophy, politics, history, the great thinkers of Europe. While other boys dreamed of escape, Alexander dreamed of understanding. And then, the storm came. Not a metaphor, a real storm. A hurricane so violent it tore the island apart. Ships smashed against rocks, houses collapsed, people screamed in the darkness. The next day, Alexander sat down and wrote. Not a diary entry, not a letter home. A full, detailed, 1,000-word account of the hurricane. The destruction, the fear, the resilience of the people. He wrote with a fire that didn't match his age, with words that didn't match his circumstances. And when the local newspaper published it, the island stopped. People read it aloud in the streets. They couldn't believe a boy had written it. They said, "This boy is not ordinary. This boy is touched by something greater." For the first time in his life, people saw him. Not as a bastard, not as an orphan, but as a voice. And that voice started a movement. The leaders of the island, the merchants, the wealthy men who once looked down on him. They looked at Alexander and made a decision. They passed a hat, collected money. Every man gave what he could, not because they liked him, because they saw potential. They sent him away, not to escape him, but to invest in him. Go, they said, go to America, get an education, come back and make us proud. America, the land of rebellion, the land of revolution, the land where a boy could, theoretically, become anything. Alexander was 17. He had no family, no safety net, just a few coins, a suitcase, and a head full of words. He landed in New York, and New York was chaos. The American colonies were on fire. Anger at Britain, talk of independence, whispers of war. Alexander enrolled at King's College, now Columbia University. But he wasn't just studying. He was watching, listening, writing. Every speech, every protest, every pamphlet about freedom. He devoured it. And then he picked up his pen again. Because when words mattered most, Alexander Hamilton spoke. He wrote essays defending the revolution. Essays so sharp, so logical, so powerful, that people thought they were written by grown men, by lawyers, by politicians. One pamphlet, published anonymously, was read by thousands. It argued for liberty with a clarity no one else had. And when the truth came out, that a teenage immigrant wrote it, the room went silent. Because the colonies realized something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. This orphan boy, this nobody from Nevis, could think, he could argue, he could inspire, and war was coming. When the first shots were fired at Lexington and Concord, Alexander didn't run. He enlisted, but he didn't pick up a musket and stand in line. He studied artillery, cannons, strategy, geometry, physics. Because if he was going to fight smart, and he was good. Too good. So good that George Washington noticed him. Imagine that moment. The most powerful man in America, the commander of the Continental Army, reading a report written by a 22-year-old immigrant with no family name. Washington read it, and then he asked for the boy. "Bring him to me," he said. And just like that, Alexander Hamilton became aide-de-camp to General George Washington, chief of staff, confidant, the man who drafted letters, who planned battles, who spoke when Washington needed words. The orphan now sat at the right hand of the most powerful man in America. Let that sink in. 10 years earlier, he was counting barrels in the Caribbean, cursed by his birth. Now, he was helping decide the fate of a revolution. The pen that wrote about a hurricane was now writing the future of a nation. This is the truth they don't teach you in school. Greatness isn't born in palaces, it's born in storms. Alexander Hamilton didn't rise despite his suffering. He rose because of it. Every insult made him sharper. Every loss made him hungrier. Every door slammed in his face made him build his own door. He had no father to give him a name, so he earned one. He had no money to buy his future, so he wrote it. He had no country to claim him, so he built one. The boy the world called nothing became indispensable. And this was only the beginning, because becoming Washington's right hand was just step one. The real war, the war for America's soul, was still coming. The war of ideas, the war of systems, the war where Hamilton would have to take the pen and write a country into existence. He started with nothing, but in his mind, he already saw everything. The rise is over. The building begins. If you want to see how that orphan boy, that aide-de-camp, became the man who created America's financial system, who battled Thomas Jefferson, who died in a duel, but left a legacy that still runs through every dollar in your pocket, then stay with me. Part 2 is where Hamilton becomes a founder.